UFC 301 is in the books. It took place in Rio, Brazil. It wasn't the best card on paper, but it for sure delivered. It was a fantastic card. 3 finishes on this card. It started with Caio Borginho. He knocked out Paul Craig in the second round. This was an incredible performance by Caio. He's now ranked in the UFC top 15 for the middleweight division. And this guy is a real threat for the middleweight division. The guy hasn't lost in the UFC. He's 16-1. He's won 15 straight fights, and he's won 8 straight fights in the UFC. 2 of his last 3 by finish. He's climbing the ranks. Paul Craig, I just don't think 185 is the right weight class for him. It's that simple. I think he needs to move back up to back up to 205 because I think that's his more natural weight class. But in the second fight, Michel Pereira, another guy, just entered the middleweight division. This guy is legit. He had a submission win under a minute into this fight. It was crazy, crazy fight. He knocked him down, and then he had a kick, and it looked like it might have it looked like he had a knee, and it looked like it might have been illegal. They ruled that it wasn't illegal. He submitted him with the guillotine really, really quickly. Michel Pereira, this guy is really something to behold. Also, in this middleweight division is really, really just stacked from top to bottom. He's also rang off 8 straight wins in the UFC, 3 in a row, and he's won 2 fights in under the last 60 days. So, I mean, he's on quite the run. Big things should be in his future for sure. The third fight from the top, a guy in Anthony Smith, the veteran in this one, who a lot of people were counting out. Let's call it how we see it. I predicted Victor Petrino was going to win, but if you remember, I did say that Anthony Smith was a real live underdog in this fight. He won the fight pretty easily. He submitted Petrino in the first round with just a couple minutes in, and he submitted him with the guillotine like Pereira did. And when Petrino tried to take Anthony Smith down, Anthony Smith just pulled at his head and just locked it in. And when it got to the ground, he submitted Petrino a minute in. It was very, very easy. Made it look easy. Although he was the plus 500, I believe, underdog in this fight, Petrino still's 27, but Anthony Smith is a real player at 205. Some people thought, oh, if he loses this fight, is he over? He's fought a lot of great young fighters, a lot of great competition as of late, and he hasn't fought Alex Pereira, so maybe he could, if he wins one more, could get a title shot. I could see that in his future. That's how great of a performance that it was. The co-main event, Jose Aldo, in his return fight, didn't fight for over a year and a half, beat Jonathan Martinez, who was ranked inside the top 15 in the UFC bantamweight division, was on a really good streak. And it's really good to see Aldo back, and not just back, but in a dominant fashion. He beat him 30-27, and Martinez was a little feisty throughout, but Aldo was wobbling him. And this looked like not a vintage Jose Aldo, but this looked like a guy that if he wins another fight, we could see a Jose Aldo versus Sean O'Malley in the future. We know Aldo's contract is up with the UFC, but I think he should re-sign with the UFC and not do boxing right now. He is 37, but the way he looked on Saturday night, I want to see him against a top 5 guy in the bantamweight division. They ranked him number 8, so it won't take a while if he puts together another win or two to face Sean O'Malley. But it was just great to see him in Rio. He was wearing the crown. Great that the UFC allowed that. He got a great reaction from his home crowd. The King of Rio is back. Just excellent. If we don't see him in the UFC again, this would be a great last fight. But getting into the main event, Alejandro Pantoja successfully defended his flyweight championship against Steve Erceg. And Erceg, who was an underdog in this fight, was ranked number 10 in the flyweight division, was a little bit of an unknown for some people. was an unlikely challenger for Pantoja's championship going in. A lot of people didn't think he deserved it. I didn't think he was the number one guy who deserved it, but I wasn't 100% against it. But it was just great to see Steve Erceg really showed that he was a legit challenger to Pantoja. Pantoja displayed his great championship mindset throughout this fight. Got rocked, was bloody by a couple elbows from Erceg in this fight, but in the end, Pantoja won this fight, outlanded Erceg 125 to 111 total significant strikes. And Pantoja did have 9 takedowns, 8 minutes of control time, but this wasn't the dominant version of Pantoja that we're used to seeing on the ground, like we saw in the last fight against Brandon Moreno. I don't think he was on his A game, but I do think that he showed what champions do when they aren't at their best. Because when champions aren't at their best, that's when we see how great they are. That's when we see the level of adversity that they could overcome to win a big fight. He won this fight in a unanimous decision, 48-47 twice, 49-46. I thought it was 48-47. I do think he won this fight, but it seems like Erceg could have put his foot on the gas more in the later rounds. He didn't do himself any favors in that. But overall, I thought it was great to see Pantoja successfully defend his championship, not only in his hometown, but as the main event for the first time. And now he has 3 title wins, 2 title defenses. I don't know who he's going to fight next. The flyweight division, there's not a clear-cut number one contender at this moment, but it's great that we have a legitimate champion at 125, a guy that can headline a pay-per-view, a guy that's gaining popularity, it seems like every time he's in the octagon. And overall, I really love this pay-per-view. It didn't shock me, but it really delivered at its best. It wasn't as great as UFC 300. No, it wasn't. But it still was really great.